No, thank you.
You say 5 minutes.
I'd like to go.
All right, we should be good to go. We are live.
Otherwise, I'd be kind of bloated.
Okay, I will call the meeting of the Central Pines Regional Council Executive Committee to order and welcome everyone here. Good to see those of you virtually. I'm sitting here in Clayton. Good to see everybody. I did want to just remind the board, I don't really think I need to, that as we are in discussion to treat each other with respect. Also remind the board that this meeting is being live streamed. So if you would mention your name each time you speak, and I would say it's live streamed on our Central Pines Regional Council YouTube channel. Also, because this is a virtual meeting, each vote we take will be done by roll call, and Beth Davis will do that for us. And I'll ask her now to do a roll call for us to see who's here.
Right, I'm going to call out your jurisdiction. So if you'll just say your name and let me know that you're here. Aberdeen.
Wilma Laney, present.
Apex.
Brett Gant, present.
Chatham County. Durham.
City of Durham, Deidreana Freeman, present.
Durham County. I think Heidi told me that she would be here, but she would be a little bit late. So, Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, present.
Johnston County.
Butch Lauder, Johnston County, present.
Lee County.
Micro, Katie Garcia, present.
Moore County. Orange County.
Jean Hamilton, Orange County, present.
Pittsburgh. I think I saw Pamela. Pittsburgh. I see you. I think you might be muted, but I see you.
Okay. There we go.
Pamela
Baldwin, present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sanford.
Sanford is present.
Okay, thank you. And Wake County.
Susan Evans, Wake County, present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Hey, Beth, I missed you on the Chatham County, but Mike Dasher here.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, since we have a quorum, we will move on. I think we have the agenda there on the screen somewhere, wherever you are. The items on there. Lee, I know we have an item for the USDA Rural Development Block Grant. Is that just going to be on the consent, or do we need to put it in H for us to discuss first?
If the executive committee is okay, it's just basically authorizing the chair to sign a letter to let us submit a grant to USDA. If the executive committee is comfortable with that, we can just place it on consent.
Okay. Unless somebody says they're not comfortable with it, we'll put it on consent. Then anything else on the agenda that anybody wishes to change or talk about now? All right. Well, I will move on then. We'll approve the agenda. Let's see. We have no presentations or recognitions tonight, so we'll move on to our first business item, which is fiscal year 22-23 audit presentation. And I will ask Hope to introduce our speakers for us.
Hi, everyone. We've got April Adams with us. She's the auditor that worked with us from Cherry Becker on our annual audit for 2023. And I'll just hand it over to her. She's got a presentation she'll show you everybody. Thanks, April.
Sure. Am excited to be here to deliver the results of the audit for you guys tonight. It's also nice to see some familiar faces. I'm sure you guys have seen me present this. Some of you have seen me present this more than once here and at your own government units. All right. I can move on to the next slide when you get ready. So I like to have this first slide just to kind of reiterate the point that we are hired by the board, you guys, the board of delegates, and we do also report to you the results of the audit. So with that, the audit standards require us to communicate quite a bit of information to you. So that's what we're going to try to achieve with tonight's presentation. So I am April Adams. I served as your engagement partner. That means that the firm invests some power in me to sign your audit opinions and deliver the results of the audit. Every audit that Cherry Becker's conducted is also required to be reviewed by a second review. And so Dan Goggerty fulfilled that requirement for us. And then with me tonight on screen is Jennifer Moran. She served as the audit manager. Basically, Jennifer and I sit down at the beginning of the audit and set an audit plan. And she kind of takes it and runs it with it from that point on and uses all the staff and senior resources we have to execute that audit plan. And then we come back at the end and come up with the results of the audit. So happy to have her with me and on our team helping get this audit done. All right, let's go on to the next slide. So what I would like to cover with you tonight is obviously the results of the audit as well as the single audit. The single audit is where the COG is administering the federal and state dollars of grants. And so we actually do some extra additional work on that and we'll report some results of that. I also just want to touch on internal controls because we do quite a bit of work related to that and just kind of discuss how we report on internal controls. We are required to identify if there were any adjustments identified during the audit. And so we always leave a space for that to report that to you in this presentation. And then as I mentioned, the audit standards require us to communicate quite a bit of different various topics. And so I'll run through those throughout the presentation. And then we've got some other matters which just happen to just discuss the types of reports that we do issue and how our opinion relates to different information in your financial statements. And then reporting changes is just upcoming changes that new GASB standards are requiring to be implemented within your financial statements. So we'll touch on that at the end. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the most important thing is the results of the audit. We did complete your audit of June 30th, 2023 as of December 1st and issued that at that time and submitted it to the state as required. So it was on time. We also, like I mentioned, completed the single audit. And so with that requires 3 more opinions that we issued. So all 4 opinions that we issued on the entity, we were unmodified. So unmodified is what we call the best results that you can get. It's otherwise known as a clean opinion. And so that's what you want. So that's what you got. So congratulations on that. All right, let's go to the next slide. That was backwards. Yeah. Next slide talks about single audit. So these are what we identified to be the major programs. This is, you guys administer several different types of programs, but these are the ones that we deem to be the major programs for the year, which means that we tested in detail the compliance requirements that were directed material to the programs. And so basically the aging program, both the federal and state side of those programs, as well as the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, otherwise commonly known as the ARPA funds that you guys are administering. Most of that is on behalf of Wake County. We did identify one issue related or finding a non-material non-compliance related to the aging cluster. The finding has to do with a special test that we have to do related to the indirect cost rate. That is very much so embedded into your financial reporting system. And so it's very hard to correct that on the back end, but it is unfortunately applying a higher rate than what's agreed upon or what we call an approved rate from the federal government. And so Hope and team are working on trying to figure out how to correct that going forward. So it was only off 2.8% from what was approved. And so we'll be working on getting that corrected for the 2024 fiscal year audit. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So internal controls, we do quite a bit of work over internal controls as a part of our audit that's required by the auditing standards. But we don't actually issue an opinion on internal controls. And that's basically what all the wording on this slide is telling you. So, but internal controls obviously are pretty important because that is the base setting of the organization being able to have accurate financial reporting. And so we do and look at what we deem to be the significant transaction cycles. Those are things like, how does the organization spend cash? How does the organization disperse the cash? How does the organization pay its payroll? And then finally, how does the organization conduct its financial close, which means how does the organization, how do they get the information out of that financial system into the financial report in accordance with the audit standards? And so we look at all those transaction cycles and we look at what we call the key controls related to that, and testing actually a test of one of each of those key controls within those cycles. And from that, we're able to glean whether there might be deficiencies in those control cycles that we look at. And so there, if we can go on to the next slide, there's two types of deficiencies that we would report. One is called a material weakness and one is called a significant deficiency. And so those are just varying levels of issues that we could identify. I am happy to report that we didn't report any material weaknesses, and we can say that. We can't actually say the same thing about significant deficiencies, but you can kind of infer it because you won't see one reported in your financial statements. But they don't like us to actually say it out loud because we don't look at every control that exists across the organization. So there still is a chance that there is a significant deficiency out there that just happens to be not what we looked at. So still the best results you can get as far as internal controls go. So corrected and uncorrected misstatements, this really is a fancy way of saying audit adjustments. So from the time that Hope and her team provides us the trial balance from the financial reporting system, we are on the hook to communicate to you if we identify any adjustments as a result of our procedures. And so I am happy to report that we don't have any adjustments to report from our audit. And that also means that, again, you've got processes and policies in place that are allowing you to capture and properly report all of your financial information, which is great. All right, the next couple of slides talk about the qualitative aspects of accounting practices. These are just various different areas that the accounting standards wants us to report to you on. First would be just to make it known that you do have significant accounting policies and they are described within your financial report. And then we're required to just highlight if there was any significant changes to those policies from the prior year. And so during the year, and usually that happens when an organization adopts a new GASB standard, which is an accounting standard. And so this year, the organization did adopt GASB 96, which is a subscription-based information technology arrangements, which is a fancy way of saying subscription licensing. So where you're licensing software to use during the year on an extended basis. And so Hope and her group did go through all the licensing that the organization has and did determine that there were no material items that needed to be recorded or adjusted in how they were accounted for in accordance with GASB 96. So it was really kind of a non-effect for you guys, but should you enter into an agreement like that in the future, it would need to be accounted for in accordance with this standard going forward. All right, this slide is just about related party transactions. So we are required to be looking for those during our audit. And then if they're identified and they're significant, then we're required to actually look at the underlying accounting and agreements related to all that. We don't have anything to report as far as that goes. Everything seemed on the up and up, and we didn't have any significant related party transactions. Similar to related party transactions, we're looking for significant unusual transactions as well. Obviously, if you had a significant unusual transaction, it's probably something you're not familiar with accounting for. And so it's always good for us to go in and take a look at how it's accounted for. We didn't identify any significant unusual transactions for this audit, so nothing to report there. And then this slide is just to highlight significant estimates. So obviously, those are things that may not play, they're an estimate, so they may not play out in the future as currently recorded, but they are they're based on management's best knowledge and experience at the time. And so we just like to highlight what those are that exist within your financial statement. So I've listed them here. The larger dollar amount ones that you'll see have to do with the benefits for your retirees, the pension, as well as the health insurance benefits, health and dental, I believe, for your retirees. And so those are the two biggest ones you'll have that fluctuate. They actually fluctuate quite a bit based on the market. And then this one just has to do with, just continue to talk about the estimates and how they're based, but also just talking about disclosures. So as I mentioned, you've got financial statement disclosures. They include your accounting policies and estimates, but a whole bunch of other information kind of detailing out information behind the numbers. And this would be where we would call out if we felt like any of those disclosures were not neutral, consistent, or clear. But we do feel like they are. So we're basically saying you could pick up your financial statements, read the note disclosures, and kind of have a good idea of what's going on. So this slide's also pretty important to me. We are required as your external auditors to maintain a level of independence from the organization. And so we assess that from the onset of the engagement before we sign the engagement letter, but then we're also required to maintain that independence throughout the audit. A lot of times when an auditor is performing an audit, they're also asked to do additional things, sometimes as a part of the audit or in conjunction with the audit. And so we call those non-attest procedures. And so we just have to make sure that we maintain independence, even though we are performing those procedures. And we do that by evaluating and by the organization designating somebody that has the skills, knowledge, and expertise to accept responsibility for the work that we've done. And so we are preparing the data collection form, which is where the organization is required to report to the federal government the federal funding that was expended and the audit results. And so it's a relatively simple form that we fill out and then openly review it, and then they have to certify within the system. So it's a fairly black and white process. And then the other thing we do is we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements and footnotes. And so we do feel like Hope can read those and understand that we have prepared those in accordance with GAAP and take responsibility for it. So all that to say that we do feel like we did maintain our independence from the council through our audit. All right, the next couple slides, I've got a lot of varying different topics, so we'll run through them pretty quickly here. And these are, again, all the things that we are required to touch on and report to you as governance as a part of the audit. So we did not encounter any difficulties during the audit. Management was gracious enough to provide us anything that we asked for. We didn't have any disagreements with them during the audit. We're not aware that they consulted well, we didn't consult any other auditors during the audit. And then this last one in purple is pretty important, management representation. So our audit's only as good as the information provided and information represented to us. And we kind of have to base our opinion on that to a certain extent. And so there is a standard list of those types of representations that are made during audit. And then we also add to that anything additional that we feel like we need to write down and everybody agree that, hey, we determined this based on what you've told us. So we keep a list of that. And then we ask management to sign that at the end of each audit. And then we keep it in our file and everybody knows what's what. So that's kind of an important part of the audit. Let's go to the next slide. We're not aware that management consulted any other kind of accounting firms for any second opinions on anything during the audit. We don't have any other findings or other issues that we feel like we need to bring to your attention as a result of the audit. As far as fraud and illegal acts, our audit is not designed to find and look for specifically fraud and illegal acts, but should we come across them as a result of our procedures, we are required to report those to the board. Trust me, if we did, we would be having this conversation long before a board meeting. You would be getting notification that that kind of thing was going on. So nothing to report as far as that goes. And then lastly, going concern, the audit standards do require us to evaluate the entity's ability to continue for 12 months from the date of the audit report. So we were December 1st. So we do think you'll be here in business basically through the calendar year 2024. So that's always good to hear, right? All right, this other matters. So this just kind of, I guess, brings to your attention that our opinion is not blanketly over everything that is in those financial statements that we issue. We do issue an opinion on the basic financial statement. So that's the the financial statements that you find up front as well as the footnotes. And then there's additional information, what we call supplementary information. So those are the fund statements that you'll see that come in behind the footnotes. Basically, we give an in relation to opinion on that. And we're saying, hey, because these amounts within these statements tie up to the basic financial statements, we're giving it in relation to opinion on, and you can rely upon those. The required supplementary information, that is the management discussion and analysis and the 10-year data that you'll find after the footnotes that deals with the pension and OPEB statements. We don't give an opinion on those. We do look at that information and make sure that it isn't materially different from what we do opine on, but we don't opine on that information in particular. All right, let's go to the next slide. So last slide, this is just kind of giving you a heads up of new accounting standards that are coming out. The GASB's been very busy over the last decade or so, so it seems like we've always had multiple GASB's to report. The only one here I think that will have any effect on the organization in the future, and that won't be till 2025, is GASB 101 with compensated absences. There are some compensated absences already reported, and this is just asking for consideration of additional compensated absences, in particular where I think it will affect this organization is sick leave, depending upon currently how sick leave is administered for the organization. And so we'll usually it has to do with whether sick leave is paid out upon leaving or if it can be applied to a pension or something like that. So we'll take a look at that with hope over the next year to make sure we're ready to implement for 2025. And that's all I had. I'll be glad to take any questions anybody might have.
All right. I will say, April, thank you. And I will say, for me personally, you had me at clean audit, so that all the rest of that was extra. However, I know there may be others who are more financially inclined to look at that stuff than I am. So any questions for April? All right.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but may I just a couple words,
Sure.
if it's okay with you, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you, April and Jennifer, for your work, and we appreciate it. We appreciate the good work that you do. And I also want to just take a minute to recognize a couple folks. First of all, and I think I say this every year, but it's really important that the audit is not, it's a team sport. It takes all of us in the organization to be able to come to you and present a clean audit. Certainly the finance team has a lot to do with it, but every staff member of our team has a part to play. And, you know, we talk about that. We do it in a way where it doesn't seem overly sort of prescriptive, but it really is done in a way where finance develops a partnership and a relationship with our other employees to make sure that they feel very comfortable coming to ask questions and not feel like they're going to be criticized or in trouble because maybe they don't know something or maybe they made a mistake. We have other ways of dealing with issues, personnel issues, right? And so thank you to the staff for all the great work. We just have the best staff, and I'm lucky and appreciative of that. I also wanted to, because it is the audit, I wanted to just specifically call out the finance team and the culture that they have been building over the last couple of years. I could not be more proud of, and really appreciate the compliance, but also the partnership that they bring to the table. So, and that's led by Hope, as our Chief Finance Officer. She has just been wonderful. I enjoy working with her. She has brought so much to the table, and she's built a great team. And those folks include Katie Davis, Caleb Register, Megan Blanky, Aaron Young, and Nancy Medlin. And I'm just very, very appreciative. And thank you to this board for providing that fiduciary oversight and and allowing us to do the good work that we can do every day. So, Mr. Chair, thank you. Just wanted to say a couple words.
All right, thank you, Lee. And I'll agree with that. It's nice, I mean, as a delegate that, yeah, I don't think it doesn't cross my mind to worry about the finances with Hope and her team taking care of everything. So kudos to that team for and we can focus on other things other than worried about audits and other financial things. So thank you for that. We'll move on. The next two items on our agenda are both related to foreign trade zone application sponsorship requests. We have two of those. These are both looking to be placed on our consent agenda. If we get that far and all agree on things. So I will turn it over to Alex Holloway to introduce the speaker for our first one, which is Medical Moving Solutions.
Yeah, I think unfortunately our speaker is actually having a little bit of trouble with the Zoom link. I think Jess got on, Stacy. So if it's okay, we can start with VinFast, Brooke, and Mac if you're okay with that. But
we will be nimble and adjust and move on.
Hey, Alex, I was able to get on, Alex.
Are you good?
Yeah, he's on.
I'm good.
Good, the rocker. All right, sounds good. Well, we can go ahead then with that. Just a little bit of context for those that might need a refresher. Our foreign trade zone is a program that we manage that companies that do any sort of international import and exporting can utilize to defer, reduce, or completely eliminate their duty payments. And so we have two companies that are seeking a sponsorship request in order for us to submit their application to the Department of Commerce in order to join this program. And so I'll pass it over to Stacy Pope, who's with Medical Moving Solutions, to share a little bit about his company and the use for this zone.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick.
I think we got it up for you already.
Okay, so I've been in the medical research field, distribution field for going on about 25 years. I started Medical Moving Solutions about 6 years ago, finding a need for 3PL logistics in the area, also finding a need for GMP warehousing and also white glove delivery of research and medical equipment. And with that, with the GMP warehousing, we wanted to be able to have vendors like Panasonic, vendors like Eppendorf, other vendors shipping things from overseas to be able to utilize our facility here because we are in the heart of RTP. We're right here off of 40, 70, and 85. And with the contracts we have with Duke and UNC, it kind of streamlines the process from port to warehouse to the end user. So it saves time, money, and logistics as far as getting those products. And that's kind of why we're seeking this today. And I'm not sure if you look at the map here. So this map right here identifies where our warehouse is located. Like I said, right in the heart of RTP, close to 540, close to 40 and 85 in major thoroughfares across the state. And being close to UNC and especially Duke, we do a lot of work with the Duke Human Vaccine Institute, which is the largest vaccine institute in the country. And be able to provide equipment from some major vendors and manufacturers in a faster, streamlined time frame helps the researcher. It also saves them money. So that's kind of what we're looking to do with this FTZ warehouse. I, again, have over 20 years experience in the medical research distribution field. During this time is how we kind of uncovered the need for a 3PL and a GMP warehousing setting. And there is a lack of GMP warehousing in this area. Actually, we're the only GMP warehouse in RTP at this time. We also found a better way of tracking equipment materials from supplier, from vendors, back to the warehouse, back out to the end user. We have several technologies that we use. We have a streamlined inventory management system and also RFID tagging that we use for equipment once it leaves facility straight to the end user site. This is kind of a picture of our GMP compliant temperature regulated warehouse where critical material and also critical instrumentation can be held and stored. We have an inventory asset management system that keeps up with every piece from the box level all the way up to the case level to the pallet level for all of our customers. We have a white glove delivery service where we install research and medical equipment across the state. Your high-end equipment, anything from X-ray machines to CAT scans to your small ULTs in the lab to some pretty sensitive equipment that they use in the clinical laboratory setting. We also manufacture dry ice. We're the only dry ice manufacturer in RTP. And we do this because it's really used in the biotech and pharma market. Use it also for transport items that have to be frozen and kept frozen or frozen at a -80 level from supplier to vendor back again to the end user. And this is just a couple of the customers that we deal with, several of the distributors all the way to the manufacturers, to the end users like pharmaceutical company Grail, Duke, UNC, NC State. But Panasonic and Eppendorf are really one of our big suppliers that are kind of pushing, and also Philips to bring things from overseas at a faster rate through the port straight to our warehouse. This is kind of where Panasonic comes in. They're importing from Japan. We specialize in storing and delivering that medical equipment and their supplies already. Local FTZ warehousing mitigates supply chain disruptions. Some of those disruptions that we saw during the COVID timeframe, and allows products to have just-in-time delivery right to the end user. Eppendorf, they ship from Germany. It's the same thing. This is precision equipment essential for accurate research. Local FTZ warehousing mitigates supply chain disruption again. Also allows us to actually have that product on hand, stored, so we can actually ship it out directly to the end user at a faster time frame. So the benefits will be to provide better quality control, compliance, and inventory tracking for our customers on imports, provide customers with more flexibility and agility in the storage and management of their imported goods, provide a cost benefit in the cases of duty deferral, reduction, and possible elimination of damaged goods, and expand the number of companies we provide inventory management and GMP warehousing to today. And then we expand the available number of FTZ warehousing options for the companies that are importing biomedical equipment to the RTP area. So right now, RTP is the fastest growing market in the country for pharmaceutical and biotech research. So it's imperative to have a warehouse like we have built and put up, where companies can ship their product here. We can have it on hand at any given time, keep up with supplier, keep up with expiration dates, keep up with anything as far as material data systems or MSDS sheets for the customer, and then be able to provide it at a faster time frames for its delivery. Does anybody have any questions? Or
This is Jean Hamilton, Orange County. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
And you might have said this in the beginning and I missed it. GMP, what does that stand for?
It stands for Goods Manufacturing Practice. So most of your facilities, like your pharmaceutical and biotech companies, have a standard. When you have anything in production that's going into rather in vitro, which is into the body, or you're doing any kind of pre-trial studies for vaccines or medicines, you have to have a standard, and that standard is what they call Goods Manufacturing Practice. So warehouse means that we fall in line with the supplies that they're ordering, that are kept at a certain temperature, a certain humidity, and that we're keeping up with the expiration dates, the lot numbers for those products, and then we're able to deliver those directly to the end user.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess the second question is, and maybe it's a question, comment to make sure I understand, is basically by being an FTZ warehouse, you get these imported goods and can manage them versus like Duke or UNC trying to get them directly from the manufacturer to the end user.
Correct. So we can get them a little quicker. We can actually take care of the product that's stored in a climate controlled facility, a GMP facility. So then when it's delivered to the end user, they know they're getting a product that's at that standard.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Stacy? All right, Alex, is there anything else we need to know and before we consider putting this on the consent agenda?
No, I don't think so. Both companies, both Medical Moving Solutions and VinFast, who we're about to hear from, presented to our FTZ board last week, and the board recommended both approval for both. So that's the only additional information I have.
Okay. Does anyone have any reason not to put this on the consent agenda? All right, then we will place it on the consent agenda. So Alex, I will turn it back over to you for the VinFast request.
Yeah, we have Brooke Taylor joining us from VinFast, VP of Relations. Forgive me if I messed up the title there, but he's here to present about VinFast, sort of their overall mission and their purpose for the FTZ.
Thank you, Alex, and it's great to be joining you here virtually. I've got a short presentation, provide some context and background about VinFast, and then why we're requesting the FTZ designation. So Alex, if you could you please bring that presentation up?
I did not receive it. If you or Mac is able to share,
certainly,
that'd be great.
Happy to. 1 minute.
Need to make sure.
So it looks like the host has disabled participant screen sharing, and Mac did send you the presentation this afternoon.
We'll get Elena to give you screen sharing.
Try one more. Yeah, try one more time. I just made you co-host, so you should be able to share now.
Copy that. There we go. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen.
You can see it.
You can see it? Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you for the introduction again. My name is Brooke Taylor. I'm the Vice President for Government Relations and Strategic Partnerships at VinFast. If you are not familiar with VinFast, we are an electric vehicle company. We are based out of Vietnam. We have a sales and marketing headquarters in Los Angeles and our manufacturing headquarters here in North Carolina. In March of 2022, we announced that we would build a full-scale electric vehicle manufacturing facility and battery manufacturing facility in Chatham County. We have an office in downtown Raleigh. I myself am based here in Raleigh. And our team is here before the board here tonight requesting an FTZ designation for our EV and battery manufacturing facility. So a little bit about our company and about the facility that we're building. So as I mentioned, we are based out of Vietnam. We produce only all electric vehicles and electric batteries. We sell 5 different model variants globally. One of those is currently available in the US. That's the VinFast VF8, which is currently on sale at the Leith dealership in Cary and also nationwide through our direct-to-consumer outlets. We'll be bringing additional vehicles to the US. And as I mentioned, we are building a full-scale EV manufacturing facility in Chatham County. The anticipated square footage of that facility is approximately 2.1 million square feet. We have purchased a total of 1,800 acres in Chatham County for this facility. This is the single largest investment by any Vietnamese company into the US in American history. It is VinFast's first production facility outside of Vietnam, and it is the largest economic development project in the state of North Carolina's history. So specifically what we'll be manufacturing is both electric vehicles, battery cells, related technology. There's a 3-phase project in place that will include vehicles, batteries, and then a supplier park as well for all of our partners to provide just-in-time manufacturing support. When the facility is fully functional, we will produce a total of 150,000 electric vehicles and batteries in phase one, and then we will ultimately expand that capacity up to 250,000 vehicles per year. So we broke ground on the site in July of last year. We are anticipating to finalize construction by the end of 2025, and then we will start production shortly thereafter. Here's just a quick reference point for you in terms of where we're located. So we're approximately 35 miles southwest of Raleigh. We're 35 miles south of the Research Triangle Park, about 20 miles east of Sanford, and 45 miles north of Fort Liberty, which I mentioned because we will have a partnership in place with Fayetteville Community College and Fort Liberty as well to access one of the largest military installations in the world to provide returning service member and their spouses with job opportunities working at our manufacturing facility. So this will be North Carolina's first automotive facility. It'll be obviously the first electric vehicle manufacturing facility in the state. Here you can see some of the renderings in terms of our general assembly facility at the top. That'll be the front of the entrance there where our E's and guests will enter under the VinFast logo there. A little bit more about the phase one and phase two planned build out of the facility. As I mentioned, we plan to complete construction by the end of 2025. Right now, we have finalized site preparation. We are in active construction. We're working closely with the North Carolina Department of Transportation to do roadway infrastructure upgrades. We're working closely with the city of Sanford to do water and sewer infrastructure upgrades, and then also with Duke Energy to deliver a significant amount of power to the facility. A little bit about our vehicles. As you can see here, this is our complete model lineup, including the recently announced VF3. You can see there on the far left side, the smallest of our vehicles, all the way to VF9, which is the full-size 7-seater all-electric vehicle. The 3 vehicles on the right-hand side of the screen here are the 3 that we will produce in North Carolina. That includes the VF7, which we've not announced pricing or range on that yet. The VF8, which is currently available, it retails for $46,000. It has a 264-mile range. And then the VF9, which has a $79,000 starting price and a 330-mile electric range. So why a foreign trade zone? So one, the facility that we're building here in North Carolina is designed to support our export markets, which include Canada, Mexico, Central America, and possibly Europe as well. We plan to source materials, equipment, and component parts from local suppliers. As I mentioned, we'll have a supplier park on site. However, some materials will be imported from our primary manufacturing facility in Vietnam. With the FTZ, that will allow us more flexibility. It'll allow us fewer supply chain delays. And with fewer restraints, we can expedite the production process that allows for a faster ramp up, that allows us to expand our workforce. And then specifically, we can also take the deferred tariffs and duties that we would normally pay, and we can reinvest that into our facility and into our workforce. I will add to that that VinFast and the manufacturing facility that we're building, I don't know of another automotive manufacturing that does not have an FTZ designation. Very common in the automotive industry. We have an existing partnership with the Port of Wilmington, which will be our primary port of entry and exit. So we will be leveraging resources here in the state to move products and services or products and goods out of the region and then bring component parts into the state via the Port of Wilmington. And beyond that as well, as I mentioned, we will have a supplier park on site. So this is an opportunity for additional companies and partners of ours to locate at the facility and then take advantage of the benefits of the FTZ and the partnership that we have here. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude. Happy to take any questions and to answer any additional information there. Go ahead and start.
Any questions for Brooke? All right, and we will, if there's no objections, we will go ahead and add this to the consent agenda as well.
That's great.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
And next item is sole source approval for Remix. And this is an item also to consider putting on the consent agenda. And Doug Plachinsky is going to present to us. Before we do that, I do want to say we talk about top-notch staff, and I do want to thank Beth for the phonetic spelling. D-U-G was awesome. That you got that for me so I can get Doug right. So thank you for that, Beth. But Mr. Plachinsky, I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you very much, Chair Lauder. Remix software is a sole source and unique software that the MPO is routinely purchased on behalf of our members. It's an integrated transportation planning software that uses flexible data analysis to public transportation planning as well as street design. We help our member agencies by also allowing them to access user accounts through our contract, and they further use it for their traffic impact analyses, community engagement, and public transportation planning. In your packet, you have documentation from us, or excuse me, from Remix as to why they are a suitable sole source vendor, as well as I believe you have the agreement also. So if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them, even though I'm not a routine user of the software myself.
Any questions for Doug?
So I guess I had one. Yeah. So Apex, I think, just bought an account for this. So is this going to allow for next year for Apex and other municipalities, or is just maybe just the Durham ones to just get an account at a lower cost than doing it themselves? Is that part of this?
We would be happy to discuss allowing Apex to use an account, or based on what our pricing is. I'll have to get with my team on the details as to whether they base their pricing on our specific membership at the MPO, or whether we're allowed to extend that to other council member agencies. I think we can also connect with Campo on that.
But the purpose is for the members to not have to buy, at least the ones you guys represent, to not to buy it themselves. Am I understanding that's what the purpose of this kind of contract is, or is it you guys are using it? Okay.
Yeah, we do have some staff capability to use the software ourselves, but we also provide those accounts to our members.
Okay, thank you.
And like I said, I'd be if our members are not using enough, or if there's a way we can add additional slots onto the contract, I'd be more than happy to do that, out of spirit of goodwill. So we can do.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a desire of ours necessarily. It's an option for like next year, especially when for renewing, and it's a lower price to go this route.
Well, and I'd be curious, does Campo purchase the same access to the same software? Do we have any idea?
Doug, do you know?
I don't know that answer, but I will find out and follow up with the board.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Might be a whole region thing possibly in the future. Sure. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? And anyone have any reason not to put this on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we will place it on the consent agenda, and we'll move forward with the next item, which is the draft of the Central Pines Regional Council bylaw changes. And Lee, will you take that one for us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Feels like we were just here talking about the bylaws, but they're meant to be a living document. So we do have a addition that we are recommending, and the purpose today is just to get input from the executive committee. And then based on your direction tonight, we can either go back and do a little work on this, or we can advance it to the Board of Delegates. The full board is who has to approve the bylaws. One note, I did notice that I inserted in section 5 and forgot to renumber after that. So I know that, and I will make that correction. The purpose of this is we were contacted by the town of Chapel Hill, the new mayor, requesting that. So Chapel Hill, for probably 6 years now, their board meetings directly conflict with the Board of Delegates meeting. Same date, same time. So to have a delegate present is impossible for Chapel Hill. The mayor of Chapel Hill would really like for somebody to be engaged with the regional council and at least be at the board meetings. And she has asked if former council member Michael Parker could sit as the liaison to the town of Chapel Hill. The mayor clearly understands that to be a full delegate, the individual has to be a current elected official appointed by the board. There's complete understanding around that. I spoke to the board chair and the other officers about whether they would be supportive of me approaching the executive committee about changing the bylaws to recognize that in a very narrow circumstance, when there is a direct conflict with the board meetings, that a local government could appoint a representative to sit, but would not have voting power. So that is what this section does, is allows that consideration. Our attorney has reviewed this and had no changes to the wording and said he had no concerns about it legally. So it is before you for any conversation, comment, and direction in terms of next steps. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any questions, comments on the proposed changes?
Gene Hamilton.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Gene Hamilton, Orange County. I guess I have concerns about this. And I'll say I spoke with the mayor today because I wanted to let her know that I had concerns. You know, I went, I'm concerned about setting the precedent. I think it should be an elected official who is aware of what's going on with the council. And in you know, not just their open board meetings, but anything that's closed session, just to understand the full picture of what's going on. And I think a liaison can't do that. Also, I think that I looked at the Chapel Hill Council schedule, and it does not always conflict, but I know it can conflict. So I would rather see a way of both them being flexible and maybe we being flexible with timing. But those are my preliminary comments. I'll pause and look at my notes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, for me, this is Susan Evans. I don't see a problem with it, particularly since they're not a voting member and they're just listening in to be informed and bring information back to Chapel Hill as necessary. I mean, or whatever other organization might have such an impact in the future. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that they're not able to regularly send elected to our meetings, but I don't see the harm in allowing this. That's just me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm not.
This is Kathleen, Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough. I don't see an issue. No, it's certainly a similar topic is being discussed at the state level, and one of the that has been brought to my attention is not all councils require delegates to be elected officials. I'd rather us keep a steady meeting schedule that we have. I see no issue with having a non-voting representative. To me, it actually enhances engagement of our communities. The more, the merrier. Being knowledgeable, sharing information. And I am fine with, reserving the vote to being, the full delegate. So I've got no issue.
This is a Brett Gant, Apex. Yeah, Lee, you asked about this previously, the officers, and I said I'm supportive, and I think I suggested that, I encouraged it being in a bylaw, so it's codified. Ms. Hamilton, I think your point is well taken, and the points of the folks who've spoken in favor are well taken. For me, it's kind of like a balance between having an elected official, that would be really nice, but then not be able to, be involved very much when the meeting is conflicting, versus having this option and kind of balancing those two things. And I think having the option and that we're doing here is it's more pro than the con that you, Ms. Hamilton, said it described. So in that balance, I see more pro than con, although I think that point is well taken by you. By me. Thanks.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, my
Go ahead,
name is,
Mark.
yeah, I was just going to say, what days do we have a conflict with at Chapel Hill? That's my first question. And the second question is, how will this unelected official be able to advocate for this, for the council? Because he's an elected person, just like the first speaker said. How will they be able to advocate for what is good for this board, board of directors? If they don't have a voting power, they cannot go back to their council to advocate for this organization, whatever we decided.
And I guess I'll just jump in. This is Deidreana Freeman. I was just going to ask, is this for the executive meeting or for the full body meeting? And are our meetings not being, is this meeting being recorded? Like, all the meetings are recorded. So even if they miss the meeting, they can always catch up with a video. I know if I've missed the meeting, I've always caught up with the video.
Yes, ma'am. So yes, all our meetings are live streamed. All our meetings are available on YouTube. And it would be up to the board. I would expect that we're only talking about attendance at the Board of Delegates meeting. The executive committee, because of what you all have to do, that needs to be all actual delegates to be able to vote. So this would just be for the full board meetings, which I think are 5 during the year.
So just a follow-up question, the liaison can attend anyway, right? They can show up. It's a public meeting.
Oh, sure.
Why?
Yes.
What's the specific reason for, I guess, changing the bylaws around it?
So changing the bylaws is just to put a process in place for a request to be made when a local government wants to be part of the COG, but they're not able to attend because of a direct conflict with the 2 meetings being at the same date and time. And we're checking, my impression from what I heard from Chapel Hill is all meetings conflicted. So we're checking right now. If you give us a little bit of time, we might be able to answer that question of just exactly how many conflict. Because I know that was asked.
In quick terms,
thank you.
We're normally at 7 p.m. on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of most months. I'm looking at their calendar
Yeah.
right now.
So we'll be able to answer that in a few minutes.
In December.
And Lee, can you,
Just
question
like
about the
we are.
roles, that was the part 2 of his question.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question about the roles?
Well, I may be able to address one of the issues is it was being asked was how could the proposed delegate communicate back to the board? You know, in certainly in this case, the proposed liaison is a formal council member, a former delegate, and certainly is still active in the community. I don't see any issue. You know, Chapel Hill has numerous committees that feed into the board that they're not all 100% elected officials. So I don't see an issue. I think for us, it just gives us a little bit more flexibility.
So this change is just for Chapel Hill?
I think to me, as I understand, we're making the bylaw change to allow for liaison for Chapel Hill, but how I see it is that it gives us flexibility over time. You know, especially as we have our committees and other such, as we you know, broaden how do we engage our member governments and with our board of delegates and our activities. So I see this as if nothing else, you know, some flexibility, and if it doesn't work, we can change the bylaws.
I'm confused. So the change to the bylaws is to allow the liaison to attend the meetings?
So Ms. Freeman, the change in the bylaws is to allow a liaison only for a local government member whose governing board directly conflicts with the meeting date and times of the full board of delegates. And so since that member of the board of delegates could never come, it will allow somebody officially appointed by the council to represent the town to sit on the board of delegates, but not to have a vote.
Okay. And what would be the purpose of having the person sit on the board of delegates and not have a vote?
The purpose is to at least have somebody officially appointed by that local government member at the meetings and participating.
Gotcha.
Like for Chapel Hill, you know, it's been, I mean, the last time we had a very active member was former Chair Ed Harrison. And actually the change in the meeting dates occurred while Mr. Harrison was the chair of the board. And he actually missed, I think he missed 3 or 4 Chapel Hill board meetings to finish out his term as the chair of the then Triangle J Board of Delegates.
Gotcha.
And so right now with our calendars right now, June 26th is the only one that Chapel Hill could attend.
Okay, thank you.
And so it's to just have an official member of the board of delegates.
Yes, ma'am, without voting.
I got you.
privilege.
Okay. And that's to just have active participation.
Yes, ma'am.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Deidre, I'm not sure this request came from me only, but when I was thinking about it, I was like, instead of, you know, letting Chapel Hill do this and kind of then if somebody else needs to do it later on, kind of having to approve it again, having the bylaws so that there is a process and it's codified that if somebody else in the future this happens to, it can just be kind of part of our rules and not an exception over and over again.
I actually definitely agree with that from a process standpoint.
And just and I'm not, you know, the board, the executive committee whatever decision you all make is fine. But Chapel Hill is the only local government I am aware of where this would apply. All the other local governments that are members, their meetings don't conflict. But one day maybe something would happen. So.
All right, yeah, I would just say this is
I'm sorry,
Walter. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Deidreana Freeman again. I was just gonna say, I don't think I have a problem with the request. It's more so, I think, changing the bylaws for it that's kind of uncomfortable. That's all. Thank you.
Well, the board could certainly make a special exception only for Chapel Hill and make it very narrow and not change your bylaws. I mean, that is an option. It doesn't get to what Mr. Gant expressed in terms of having a process, but you know, you could certainly, there's another way of doing it. I'll just put it that way. Just giving y'all options.
This is Butch Lauder, Johnston County. I do say I like the process piece of it. I also am more inclined to like the change in this instance for Chapel Hill because of the potential for increased engagement. And if we can have a local government who has increased engagement as a result of this, that kind of makes me want to do that. I would say anytime we can do that, the whole group is better off. And I think maybe Kathleen mentioned that earlier, somebody did. But Lee, let me ask you this. So we don't need to take a recommendation for approval or denial. We just need to recommend taking it to the full board for discussion, or do we need to recommend approval? Are you looking for a specific recommendation?
I think trying to utilize this group, how we've discussed utilizing this group moving forward, I think it would be good to have a recommendation. If you want to move it forward, you would recommend approval. If you recommend denial, maybe we would go back and work on it, or if there's an issue, we would work on it and bring it back. My recommendation is for you all to decide what you want to do and then move the recommendation to the board for a vote.
So does that mean we need to have a roll call vote for this? Because it sounds like we're split.
I was about to ask, would it make sense for this to be moved out of or not be placed on consent and to have a roll call vote? I'm willing to make a separate motion.
Well, before you make a motion, I'd like to make a comment. This is Pamela from Town of Pittsburgh. In reference to changing the bylaws, I think that would probably be the best solution, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. There could be some others, just as Leah said, there could be others which have the meetings on that particular time and have a conflict. Because just to say,
I think you went to mute, Ms. Baldwin.
Okay, maybe that's fixed. Okay, I don't think that would be fair to other members just to say Chapel Hill only, or other potential members. So basically, I'm in favor of changing the bylaws. And then let me just add this. At the time, Chapel Hill always had a member there, which was Ed Harrison, for the whole entire time that I've been on the board. It was him. And so they were certainly at the meetings. And also, if this individual is not going to have a vote, it is a public forum. So that individual certainly can bring back things to the Chapel Hill board. So I would definitely, because he was, again, Ed was always there and he was always participating. So basically, you would look forward to the Town of Chapel Hill liaison, if people vote for that, to have the same type of situation. So I am in favor of it, but I'm in favor of changing the bylaw so that later on, just for processes purposes, we don't have to go through that again.
Agreed.
All right. So Kathleen, I think you were wanting to make a motion, and we'll do a roll call vote on this.
I would like
forward to the full board
to move to adopt the bylaw change to permit a a member government liaison not to serve as non-voting delegate or instances where the member government's board meetings directly conflict with our council, regional council meetings.
Susan Evans, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion in the second. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I have a question. So what you're proposing is that we change the bylaws or not? To get
Yes,
this.
yes, ma'am. I am proposing that we codify in the bylaws to change the bylaws. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, or should this occur again, or for another or another time.
Okay, so if we allow this, does that that if we don't change the bylaws, can we allow this without for other municipalities that are trying to get in, or how you're saying to change the bylaws so that we won't have to go through this again? But do we need to go through this again if someone else comes in? If we allow this?
No,
we don't.
So the way
I'm just trying to say is we can do what we need to do without changing the bylaws. Is that correct?
Well,
well, the motion on the table is to change the bylaws.
To recommend.
To recommend to change the bylaws.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I address Ms. Laney's question real quick?
Sure.
So Ms. Laney, to your question, if the bylaws are changed and we had another local government member have this situation occur, what would happen is that they would make a request to appoint a liaison, and the board chair at the time would have the authority to either approve or deny the request. It would not need to come back to the executive committee or to the board.
Okay, but if we, if someone would have this down the road, wouldn't we just agree with it if we let this first person in? Would we continue that? Wouldn't we just?
I think that would be up to the board chair, but yes, I think you're setting a precedent that as long as the same conditions are met, that the board chair would have good reason to probably approve it.
Right,
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
All right, any other questions, comments? Beth, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. So I'm just for clarification for my purposes for minutes. So are we pulling this? We're pulling this particular item off of the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct. And as an active singular motion on the table to be voted on separately from the consent agenda.
Okay. All right. So can we restate the motion just to make sure that it's clear?
I had moved to draft the Central Pines Regional Council bylaws to permit an appointed liaison to serve as a non-voting delegate in the cases where local government meeting schedules directly conflict with the Central Pines Regional Council member. Central Pines Regional Council meeting times.
All right.
And I believe the motion needs to say that we are recommending approval of this to the full board.
Got it. So this is not actually a vote to make that change. This is just to recommend it to go on to the full board.
Is that correct? Lynn?
That is correct. The full board is the only entity that can change the bylaws.
Okay. All right. So we will start with Aberdeen.
Oh boy. So
She's like, I want
this is just okay. Again, this is just to bring it to the full board, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's
Okay,
not
aye.
actually making the change. Okay.
Well, no.
Let me, if I may, Mr. Chair, the motion, as I hear the motion, is to recommend to the full board that they approve the bylaw change draft that is before you tonight with the number changes that I already mentioned. So it's not just to push it forward to the full board, but it's a recommendation for the full board to approve it.
Recommendation by committee.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
I just want to make sure I'm really clear on what I have heard the motion to be.
Correct.
Okay. So
At the next meeting.
So am I still on or?
Yeah. Go for it.
I'm not really ready to change the bylaws. So I'm gonna have to say, because I don't mind going but I'm not really ready for that. And you're recommending to do that. So I have to say no.
Okay. Apex.
Aye. Brett Camp.
Chatham County.
Mike Dasher, aye.
Durham.
Durham County.
Adriana Freeman.
Carter.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. City of Durham. What was that, Deidreana?
City of Durham, nay.
Okay. Durham County.
This is Heidi Carter. Aye.
Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, aye.
Johnston County.
Butch Lauder, Johnston County, aye.
Lee County. Micro.
Katie Garcia, aye.
Moore County. Orange County.
Jean Hamilton, no.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, Pamela Baldwin, yes.
Stanford. Mark's still on.
I would say no.
Okay. And Wake County.
Susan Evans, aye.
Okay, so the motion does carry. It's we have 8 for aye and 4 for nay.
Split that.
All
That's how
right.
you make the sausage.
That's my first one.
That's how you make the sausage.
There we go. So we'll move on to the next item, the pay and classification study overview. And I'll turn that over to Lee and Jenny for them. This is for information only.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So as I know many of your local governments do, we are embarking on a pay and classification study for our staff members. We certainly want to make sure that we stay competitive in the market in terms of recruiting and retaining staff. For those that have been on the board for a few years, you know, we did this probably 5 years ago. The board at that time gave us guidance and direction that they wanted to see this done every 4 years or so. Because of a lot of the changes we were making last year and bringing on the MPO, we pushed the pay and class study out an additional year. And so we have embarked on it. We are using Piedmont Triad Regional Council to do the study. And so that's just a general overview. I'm going to let Jenny talk a little bit about maybe the steps on what staff has done already and will be doing. And again, this is just more for information. We'll be updating you as we move forward with the study. There's really no results or anything to report right now because we're in the middle of the process.
Yes, thank you, Lee. So yes, the last time we did this was in 2018 as an organization. So we started in December of this year, and so far we have held a leadership team orientation and 2 staff orientations. We, have obviously had a lot of new employees since 2018, and a lot of new folks just to the workforce in general. So have really never been through this at any organization. And then in January, we sent out position description questionnaires to everyone in the organization. And in February, PTRC has been interviewing folks. And so we are wrapping that up this week, actually. And from there, they will continue and do the market analysis and bring back some recommendations. So we hope to have that kind of final package delivered to us from PTRC April, May timeframe.
And just as a reminder, we have defined our market to be really who we're competing against, and it's all of you. So, when we lose staff members, it's usually to another local government, which a lot of times that's wonderful. I mean, if we're going to lose somebody, we would rather them go to a local government member than to go into another profession. We don't compare ourselves to other COGs except for the COGs that are really serving major metro areas. So like Central Lina, and do we even have PTRC? No, so it's really just the Charlotte region that we make some comparisons to. So that's our market that we look at. And we'll have more. So our plan is to keep the executive committee updated in terms of what we're doing as we go along, so that when you all see the budget and see results, it's not the first time you're aware or sort of looking at it. So, Mr. Chair, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them. But this was just more of a, FYI, we're getting started, and we'll be back in touch.
All right, any questions from anyone? If not, we will move on to the financial dashboard, and Hope, I will ask you to present that to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly before I get into this page right here, earlier in the audit presentation, April mentioned there were non-attest services. So we are currently, 2003 financials were the second year of a 3rd-year contract with them that was bid out. We will be bidding that out again next year, and those non-attest services for drafting the financials will come in-house. I will be starting to perform those services then. I just wanted to point that out. We are still under contract with them to do that through next year, and then we'll move into me providing that service, just in case anybody wondered about that. I know we've had a lot of turnover, and I was talking to Lee, and we just wanted to try to get sort of an idea. This is just getting feedback from you guys at this point I wanted us to have a formal way of providing some financial transparency to the board. And so this is just, I think dashboards are kind of a picture's worth 1,000 words sometimes, and would love some feedback if you have any initial thoughts of things that you want to see on here. This does not mean we have to go with what is on here. These are just some ideas. And if there are specific things that you like to see or would want feedback on regularly, I would love to know what those items are.
Yeah, the plan is to have this for every executive committee meeting. So we would provide a financial dashboard to you each time you meet. So.
Are we supposed to be seeing something on screen or just in our packet?
I think just
It should be in the agenda packet.
Yeah, I see in the agenda packet, but I didn't know if there was a slide, because all I still see is the agenda items, and I was just clarifying so that if there was something that was supposed to be seen on screen, I'm not seeing it, but I am seeing it in the packet. I hope that made sense.
It does, yes. And then you saying
As long as you're happy, we're happy, Kathleen.
Yeah, no, we'll make sure we can do it in a way that it's on the screen from now on too. That's a good point. So yeah, just in the packet for right now.
I like visuals, so.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I really like it. I agree with Susan. It's like the visuals are good. It makes it very digestible.
And we can definitely add as we go. You know, if you think of things later on, that's no problem. Just initial thoughts for now.
So this is Brett Gant, Apex. Can I ask, when you're showing these to the committee each time, I guess this is the example you're talking about, right?
Yes.
So what do you expect to change each time, and the things that you're going to be maybe potentially pointing out to us or we should be looking for from this kind of example graphics?
Good question. So we can walk through that each time. So I would think that you would see a progression with what we want is we're going to walk through some of the, we're going to walk through in a little bit more detail with you guys later around how our cash flow works and what we need for that as far as fund balances and that sort of thing. But this sort of paints a picture of right now, at the end of January, if you look at this top graph, revenue versus expense, it looks kind of bad because expenses are way are far exceed the revenues.
May I ask if this is for the month of January or year to date?
This is year to date
That
as of January.
more clearly
yes, we can
specified.
We can definitely add that. But it also shows that at the end of January, we are typically a heavily reimbursement based on federal and state grants. So at the end of the quarter, we're submitting all those reimbursements in January. So we're needing member dues and some of those discretionary incomes to float that time. So it's always going to be heavily expense over revenue at the end of January until we get all these payments in. So it's just, so that should be better in February. It should start evening out or be revenues over expenses, hopefully. That's one of the things with that. Budget versus actual. I just know that a lot of boards usually like to see that, but if it's not something that you want to see, we can take it off. That I would love to. That would look a little differently if we had some different software. And we're working at getting some solutions in place for that. It currently doesn't provide an avenue for us to really segregate some of our more project income type revenues. And so everything's lumped in together in the general fund. And so some of these budgets cover projects that are really multi-year instead of being just, in this year. And so the budget looks much larger than the actual. However, the actual, if you look at it through January, is about on target or about what we spent 6 months into the year last year. So it's comparable to the last fiscal year, but I could add something like that on there if that would be helpful.
I guess I ask.
Is this helping at all? This may not.
I ask because with Apex, we get updates like this from our financial people. And because of the way the money comes into our municipality, I think probably most places, it's uneven. And therefore, it's really hard to tell in a snapshot if there's a concern anywhere. And so that's what I always struggle with ours. And I was wondering, is there a way for the information, especially changes over time, to be value added as much as possible.
Yeah, and this is Susan Evans. I would say that I don't find, given the circumstances, the budget versus actual being very meaningful data. Unless it can be broken down into some kind of components, but it sounds like certain projects are cyclical. And so you just can't reflect that in one pie chart. And then I like the pictures of revenues and expenses, but there again, it sounds like there's going to need to be context.
Okay.
Like the things that you shared about in the quarter grants and so forth haven't been applied for. And so maybe just a few comments out to the side that would give us any special context that we need for the current period that we're looking at would be helpful.
Good points.
Yes, very good points.
All right, anything else on that from anyone?
Yeah, Jean Hamilton, Orange County. So I just want to add, like, for the member dues, it'd be helpful to know like when they're due, to get a sense of the timing.
Okay.
You can say when
we send those out at the very beginning of the year, or sometimes at the very end of the prior fiscal year. So they're in our members' hands at the very beginning of the year, and they're due when we send them out.
July, you mean?
Yes.
They're
The beginning of the fiscal year.
so August, they're 30 days over, mid-August, last of August.
Yes.
Right, yeah, so that, like, by putting it in there, it just reminds us. I mean, like I would have known being fairly new, but that way it's like, oh, they were put out in the fiscal year. We're now in February, but this is for January. Oh, they're overdue.
Yes, yes.
Very good point.
All right, and now I'll do it unmuted. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Thanks.
And Lee, I did have a question on what is item E, the budget amendment number 6. Is there any discussion we need to have on that, or is it just, I know it's in our packet.
The budget amendment. Hope, is there anything on the budget amendment you want to just for context?
Yeah. No, it's no, most of them are just regular changes, normal changes to the projects. The only thing new are the 2 aging projects that are ARPA funded and Medicare funded, but those 2 are, you've seen similar projects to them in the past. We just had a new tranche of funding for those. So
Are these in our packet?
yes, I think they're at the very end.
It's the very last page.
one.
Yeah, the last thing in there.
Got it.
All right, so I will, are we looking for, I have your paper moving, so can I go ahead? Is there anything else on that? If not, we have these 6 items on there, our draft minutes from November 15th of last year, the medical moving solutions application, and also the VinFast application, sole source approval for remix, our budget amendment number 6, resolution 2024-0201, and also the USDA grant application on there. Is there any item anybody wants to remove for additional consideration, or do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve as presented.
And this is a second.
Hillsborough.
Second, Deidreana Freeman, City of Durham.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, Beth, will you do the honors of doing the roll call vote, please?
Yes. All right. Aberdeen.
Will Mulaney votes aye.
Apex.
Brad Gant, aye.
Chatham County.
Mike Dasher, aye.
City of Durham.
City of Durham, Deidreana Freeman, aye.
Durham County. So Heidi's still on.
Yes, I just didn't hear you. My internet's unstable, I think.
Okay.
I.
Okay.
I.
Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, aye.
Johnston County.
Butch Lauder, Johnston County, aye.
Lee County. Micro.
Katie Garcia, Town of Micro, aye.
Moore County. Orange County.
Gene Hamilton, Orange County, aye.
Pittsburgh.
Mo Baldwin, Town of Pittsburgh, aye.
Sanford.
Mark Akenosho, aye.
And Wake County.
Last but not least, Susan Evans, aye.
All right, approved unanimously.
All right, we will move on then. We'll make up 5 minutes here. There are no items removed from the consent agenda, no public hearings, so we will move on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things that I wanted to report out. First of all, I was in Washington, D.C. a week or so ago and had really good meetings with every congressional office and Senate office. Actually got to see Congresswoman Ross, Congressman Nickel, and for a brief moment, Congresswoman Foushee. Also met with staffs of Congressman Hudson and actually saw Congressman Don Davis, who's almost in our region. We passed each other. And I remember Mr. Davis and I worked together when he was the mayor of Snow Hill and I was in Greene County. So I actually got to talk to Mr. Davis for a few minutes in the hallways of the basement of somewhere I was. And met with the Senator Tillis and Senator Budd's offices as well. We also got a chance to go to FEMA headquarters and have some good conversations with FEMA. One interesting fact about the region is because we're two MSAs, the Homeland Security Act of 2002 actually designates a lot of FEMA's funding and Homeland Security's funding be based on MSAs. And so because of the split, we sometimes miss out on some Homeland Security opportunities that some other larger regions, because of the MSA configuration, get. So just wanted to learn a little bit more and had good discussions. So it was very evident when we were there how much they appreciated the work of the regional councils. They were especially impressed with the grant work that we've been doing and the funding that we're bringing into the region and obviously to their districts. So good meetings just all around. And also just a quick thank you, if we hadn't done it already, thank you for the support of the executive committee and to the board. I think we are almost done with the renovations. We've got like 2 or 3 punch list items that are almost there. And we had a wonderful open house. And at the end of January, we appreciate all of you being there. We're getting a lot of interest in this space. We actually, Ms. Carter, so you know, there's been a Durham County employee or two that have been using our offices all week because one of the buildings they were working in is having some repairs done to it this week and they didn't have anywhere to work. And they were like, hey, we can go to the regional council. And so they showed up and I was like, come on and work. It's fine. So we're getting a lot of traction on that. So we thank you for the support. I think people are seeing this place as a place to come and work and convene and just come together as a region. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Lee. And For chair's report, I had something I will pass maybe in the next meeting while I'll ask Lee to give us an update on the marketing initiative. I had a chance to be interviewed for that today. I'll say interviewed. They talked with me, and I was, and upon reflection, the number of things that Central Pines has helped, whether it's the town of Clayton or Johnston County, out in over the years, and they're currently helping with, was just amazing when I kind of reflected on all those. But Lee, I'll ask you to give us an update on that, maybe at our full meeting on that, if you would.
Yes, sir.
So with that, I will move on to around the region. And so I don't miss anybody. Beth, will you mind if anybody has anything they want to add in a minute? We'll just start with Aberdeen and move around. Beth, if you'd make sure we go in order.
Sure.
I don't really have a lot, but I'm happy with where Aberdeen is headed. We've got a lot going on. Some of it may not be new to you because the sportsplex is finished, and we're talking about putting a playground also in that area. The Iron Horse project is taken off. Everything's been approved that has to be approved to give us a go. Actually, the Aberdeen Elementary School, that is going very well. Looks like we're going to have a development there. We're going to keep the gym and the auditorium for Aberdeen, and then we're going to have housing, some affordable. I'm always looking for affordable housing. The two golf courses that are going up in Aberdeen, that's coming along. So we're doing pretty good. I'm happy at where we are, to tell you the truth.
Thank you. Next is Apex.
Yeah, thanks. I guess one of the things, it's not really out there yet, but it might be eventually. We're working on a land swap with a landowner that has an adjacent property to ours, and assuming that swap goes well and Apex, the town benefits from this land swap, I think it's probably something that our staff could probably talk to other municipalities and counties about, and our experiences and what kind of we went through with that. So I'm not sure that's a common thing across the region or not, but I hadn't heard about that a lot. So I thought I'd offer Apex, once the thing is finalized and everything's public, I'd offer offer up our staff to kind of talk about with other places what we've learned, the good and the bad with that process. Thanks.
All right, next we've got Chatham County. Anything from Chatham County? I don't know if he's still here.
I think he dropped off though.
Okay.
I was gonna say, looks like we're dropping fast.
All right, City of Durham. Adriana, did you want to report on anything for City of Durham? All right, we will move on to Durham County.
I will just say that I wanted to announce that our Soil and Water Board has won an award for being the Soil and Water Board of the Year and for the region. And I wanted to announce that. And also we have two educators, one at the elementary school and one at our high school, that were the educators of the year too. And so just the great work that's going on in Durham County, people working together across systems, farmers working with soil and water, working with neighborhoods to be sure our air and water are clean and healthy. And yeah, I just want to mention that.
All right, let's see, Hillsborough.
Well, we just had our budget retreat, which is a little scary. It was very productive from the standpoint of we're mapping out for the overall board, addressing, tackling our affordable housing and such, or at least educating the full board. So while I serve as the affordable housing SME for our board, a real goal is for all of us to feel comfortable or comfortably competent, if you will, and understanding the players, the issues, the tools, et cetera, et cetera. And we've got a good game plan for the coming year. So that's something I'm excited about. And I'm also just excited that Orange County, one of our commissioners, Jean Hamilton, so grateful for her support of the mental health crisis diversion center that's going to be located in Hillsborough. And I just did a site visit of an amazing facility in my hometown in Alabama, and did an information share with our planning committee lead. So I'm just really stoked that that's going to be located in Hillsborough once it's up and running. It's still very early in planning stages, so that's that for us.
All right, Johnston County.
So we had a strategic planning retreat last month. This month, 2 weeks ago. It's not March yet. So we had that a couple of days that we spent. That was really good to be forward focused for a while rather than in the minute on the business. And really the other thing I want to say is, again, I talked about reflecting on what Central Pines Triangle J had meant to me over the years, and just thankful that we have the leadership that we have and the staff that we have, that when I have a question out of the blue, that they're always there to provide me with some solid information and help me make decisions. So I'll just say thanks to Lee and all the staff for helping Johnston County along its way.
All right, I'm going to skip over Lee County because I don't think anybody's here, but Micro is next.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we've not much going on in Micro. We've got a new public works director. We're very happy with him. And Micro has grown so much. We're about to get a second water tower. But other than that, not much else going on. Thank you.
Moore County, I don't think we have anybody from there. Next is Orange County.
Hi, Jean Hamilton again. Our board just approved the first ever strategic plan for Orange County. So we still need to work on some of the performance measures, but the sort of guiding vision, I think, is well established, and we will see if we can live up to that document.
All righty. Pittsburgh.
Yes, thank you. This is Pamela Baldwin, town of Pittsburgh, and we have lots of things going on as usual. So, but basically, we are trying to go on and build a skate park. There were citizens which had actually raised a lot of funds to go toward the skate park. So we're going to try to put that, to get that going. And also in reference to the water, the board actually voted to send a notice of intent to sue Apollo Chemical for violations of the Clean Water Act and the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. And that's in reference to Haw River and the chemicals that we believe that they are sending downstream. The only other thing, the town of Pittsburgh now has meetings just once a month on the second Monday in each month. So That's just a quick overview for the town of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. Sanford.
Mark Akenosho, City of Sanford, we have our retreat, strategic retreat tomorrow and on Friday. So all the council members will be there. And we are celebrating our 150 years anniversary of Sanford through the summer. So if you are in Sanford, stop by the City Hall or some of our celebration days. We will be posting it to you guys.
Did you say 150 or 115?
150.
Okay.
50.
Okay. Just want to make sure I got the right number.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yes, it's a big one.
All righty. And Lake County.
That's you. Yeah, fall asleep sometimes. No, I'm kidding. I'm just trying to think. There's just so much, y'all, that is going on in Wake County. It's hard just to pick a couple of things, but I want to highlight one project I know my friend Brett Gant will appreciate. You know, the county completed a study back last summer. Well, some folks helped us do it about analysis of our tree canopy across the county. And no big surprise, in the last few decades, you know, we've lost quite a lot of forestation in Wake County due to development. So we're trying to counteract that and be very proactive about that. And we passed a policy about planting new trees in certain areas using various different funds. And so our first project for that just took place about a week ago. We planted 1,600 little baby trees in conjunction with DOT near the intersection of North Carolina 54 and North Carolina 540, very close to here. So soon you'll see the benefits of those 1,600 trees that have been planted. And then there will be another project in another area coming up in March. And we're going to continue, you know, to try to rebuild our tree canopy in Wake County because we think it's something that's very, very important. So I wanted to highlight that little fun thing.
All right, I think we're done then. All right, so we have no other business other than adjournment. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Hamilton.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I know we don't have to do roll call on that, so we're out of here. See you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Deanna, who made the motion to adjourn?
Kathleen, Kathleen, and then
okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. And Beth, thank you
sorry
for letting me pick on you, Beth, and on the phonetic spelling.
I try to be helpful.
You know, it wasn't Doug that I had trouble with, so thank you. Bye.
All right, y'all have a good one.